Okay, so the session is live on YouTube now. I'm just going to broadcast it to the attendees in another few seconds. Okay, we're going
Anyone
live.
from your team is looking at how it looks on YouTube in case
Yeah, yeah,
some
yeah.
of
It's
us need to change
Amit, Amit,
anything?
Amit, Amit, Amit. I'm going live. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's live session. This session is brought to you by the team at India's leading automotive events, Commercial Vehicle Forum, Two-Wheeler Forum, and Passenger Vehicle Forum. We have collaborated with Secure Things to bring a real dipstick, an unveiling session on the state of automotive cybersecurity in India. This session is aptly titled Not a Future Plan. Automotive cybersecurity protection is coming sooner than you know. And in this session, you will get to hear from practitioners in the auto world share their experiences of deploying cybersecurity measures. So before we begin today's session, I wanted to take this time to especially thank our partner Secure Things for supporting this session. Secure Things is an organization run by ex-Symantec automotive cybersecurity experts and offers a comprehensive cybersecurity solution. It has in fact set a goal to protect 100 million vehicles by 2027. Now, coming to the agenda for today's session, we will be having a panel discussion and will run few polls during the session. Then finally, we'll close with an audience Q&A at the end. So before we start this session, just wanted to share a small ground rule that I would request all the attendees to direct any questions that they may have to the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. I'm asking you to do that as it helps us refer to your questions in a focused manner. You can also choose to upvote these questions, and that will help us addressing the most burning topics. So please note once again questions to the Q&A section in the bottom of your screen. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our moderator for today's session, Mr. Vishal Bajpayee, co-founder and CEO of Secure Things. Vishal is someone who is passionate about automotive cybersecurity and connected vehicle innovations. He has over 2 decades of extensive experience, of which include 15 years with Symantec. Over to you, Vishal.
Thanks, Rohit, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope no, next 90 minutes would be very enriching in terms of knowledge that you'll see. It's my pleasure to moderate this session, and I welcome our esteemed panelists. And let me introduce our panelists. So we have Dr. Lopamudra Basu. She's ex-Global Head Cybersecurity, Risk Governance and Compliance from Nissan Motors. So Dr. Lopa Mudrabasu she's a veteran in cybersecurity with 2 decades experience in different sectors that include automotive, BFSI, ITES, and manufacturing. She holds a master degree in information technology and Doctor of Excellence in cyber risk management along with required industry certifications. She held leadership roles in Fortune 500 companies, awarded as most inspiring 10 digital and tech leaders of Indian Achievers Award 2020, India's top 20 security influencers, and several others. As international speaker, she serves on various global advisory boards and judging committees, shattering the glass ceiling and advocate of women in cyber. She accepts challenges, mentoring, and working with improving the quality of cybersecurity and enterprising risk governance professionals on the global stage. So please welcome Dr. Lopa Basu. Second, our panelist, Mr. Bob Paul Raj. He is head of connected and digital platform at Mahindra and Mahindra in Mahindra Research Valley. So Mr. Bob has 21 years of experience in academic research services, product development, and research and development in organizations like Tata Elxsi, Sascan, Hyundai Mobis, and includes an entrepreneurial ventures as well. Currently with Mahindra and Mahindra as Mahindra Research Valley, Chennai. Please welcome Mr. Bob. Our third panelist is Mr. Niloy Ray. He is Deputy General Manager at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India. So Mr. Niloy has over 23 years of extensive global experience in the field of technology management, entrepreneurship, and global management. So working out of US, Singapore, and India, He has delivered projects and services through strong relationships with global business partners through people and technology management. Currently working out of Bangalore in Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India, he is developing the connected vehicle practice in India for Daimler commercial vehicles. He is also setting up cybersecurity COC for connected commercial vehicles for Daimler and setting up the blockchain practice as well at MBRDI. Please welcome Mr. Niloy Ray. Our fourth panelist, Mr. Ram Bhavaraju from Athar. He is head of software and web technologies. So Ram is a senior engineering leader, currently heading software and web technologies at Athar Energy. He has a master degree from the US and worked on multiple years in the US. Ram has been part of on-site, off-site, and setting up different projects and following the agile methodology. Ram has also varied experience in e-commerce, being part of teams in Redbus and Paytm. At Ether, he leads software development efforts, which work end-to-end from vehicle to customer. Please welcome Mr. Ram. And our final fifth panelist is Mr. Saurabh Sharma. Saurabh is business unit head of Lumax Ithran Telematics Private Limited. So Mr. Saurabh Sharma, he's an electronics graduate with over 17 years of experience in various leadership role in automotive lighting, electric vehicle, alternate fuel, software engineering services, and telematics spanning from large corporate houses, mid-size company to startups, including Hitachi, Minda, Ultra Motors, TII, KPIT, Lumax Group, etc. And currently as a business unit head for Lumax Ithran Telematics Private Limited, a joint venture between Lumax Auto Technologies Limited India and Ithran Location and Controlled Limited Israel, is responsible for telematics and connectivity solutions for automotive domains. Please welcome Mr. Saurabh. So, as you see that overall, we have the experts from various sectors, various segments of automotive supply chain, and that is what we are looking for to give the insights from various aspects, how this challenge of cybersecurity they perceive, and then what is currently happening. So please welcome everyone. So Rohit, before I start, can you pose the first question to the audience? Right. Okay, so before we start, I just wanted to share that on behalf of me and my panelists, I would like to say that whatever we'll be demonstrating, questioning, debating, or talking and sharing our views, it is not meant for any brand, make, or individual. We are discussing and to see that how this particular challenge is perceived from a specific segment, and what are the specific challenges and how we are taking what are the strategies and could be done and what is happening on a specific sectors. So that is like nothing related to any brand or any person. So as Rohit has already shared a background of myself and Secure Things, we are passionate about automotive cybersecurity. We started and comes with a strong background. We are a product-based company, but we also have the research lab. We work on various researches across two-wheelers, four-wheelers, then different ecosystem like your cloud-based, internet-driven, our new business models are very extensive. Like you have sophisticated attacks, like how it can come through hardware or your satellite radio, and all these. We do that. So that's just a small background. And Rohit, can you show the result, please? Yeah, right. Okay, so yes, as expected, the poll was like, do you think vehicle is secure from cyber threats? We see that 73% the respondent, they say that it is, vehicle is not secure. And it's true that, and it matches with overall global survey as well, that when we see the overall connectivity or a vehicle, there are so many areas, so many attack, threat surface from where the hackers can attack it, and that is where it requires a comprehensive security. So that is like, definitely matches with the audience, and I'm sure that the India, it's they're well aware of like what happening, and in general the overall technology. So that is pretty much there. So before we start, like, another general perception comes when we talk about the cybersecurity. A perception comes that cybersecurity is related with connectivity. If the vehicle is connected, then there could be a cyber threat, and the other vehicles, if they are not connected, then there is not much threat. So I just want to, before we start our discussions, I just want to share a video where some research work is done at our team, and that would share some perspective. So I'll just share the video. So before running the video, I just wanted to share that the connectivity we can see in two aspects. One is that the default connectivity that comes that fitted within the vehicle, and second thing, the connectivity is also that if cyber criminal can get access to a vehicle, he can enable the connectivity, and that is much more dangerous because you assume that there is no connectivity, and then it is enabled, and then your vehicle can be accessed by the cyber criminals, and he can do based on whatever he access, he can do damage that is probably you are not aware of, because the enemy, you don't know whether enemy is before you or not. So I just just run it. So here the infotainment system is just connected to power. There is no connectivity, and by default there is no connectivity in the system. And what the hacker, the cyber criminal can do, he can get access to this device, and he can enable the connectivity. It can enable the Wi-Fi, and when it is there, then the cyber criminal can access it from the outside. And one more aspect what we are showing, that once he gets access to the device, he gets the root access, and then he can pair his phone bypassing the authorization. So that is what we are showing this right. And once this Wi-Fi is enabled, and this can be done at different time, like this could be done using a malicious insider when the vehicle is going out of production. It could be done at your rogue service technician where the vehicle goes for the servicing, or it could also be done like if some cyber criminal, somebody can just break in the vehicle, and if he gets more time, then he can just deploy a malware, and then it can make changes. One more thing here, what we are sharing is that the cyber criminal, what it can do, it can deploy a malware. The malware can make changes and then can delete itself. So that is like, if it won't leave any trace, that after the attack, if someone wants to do forensic, then it won't be able to find any malware in the device. If this is like a post attack, if we want to trying to just look at that what has happened. So yeah, so this is what it shows, that it has passed the authorization, and it can then connect it. And then you have also seen that the cyber criminal, what we have demonstrated, that if he has the access, and after accessing, he can get a complete control of the device. He can, what we have demonstrated, it can reboot, but you can assume that if he has a root access, then he can do anything. So that is what the objective of showing is, that it is not just the connected vehicle. The threat is not coming from the connected vehicle, but the threat is like all the vehicles, whatever it is existing that on the road, then those are equally vulnerable. And that is where, when I talk about it, we have seen that, or demonstrated across segments. Two-wheelers are very vulnerable, and then what I say that higher danger because the volume is too high, and then considering the country like India, then the damage potential could be too big. So here, the objective is that showing that we must have to pay attention and need to act now. And it is really great to see that the manufacturers, they have already started putting cybersecurity into priority bucket, and it is already start building the strategy and taking care of all those issues. So it's really great to see, and that is what we see, that it is not automotive cybersecurity is not something what we will see in future. It is already there. It is already started. So with this, I just start the discussion. And first question from the panelists is that, how do you see cyber threat landscape to the vehicle, and protection strategies manufacturers are adopting? What kind of challenges they see, based on the real practical challenges across new technology or the existing vehicles? And then when like automotive is something that is a great example of working collaboration and with trust, and how does that overall this value chain, how do you see that the independent security solution providers or experts play a role? So I would just request Mr. Nilay, if they want to if you share something. And I know that like when we talk about the way this automotive transformation is happening, a lot of changes and threats are coming because of market need, software driven system, autonomous vehicles. That is all causing the stress, and then opening up those new gaps where the cyber criminals can exploit. So please, Mr. Nilay. You are mute. You're on mute, Nilay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. So if we look at automotive in general, we always worked with the concept of functional safety, with all the space and all the 26262, all these guidelines, more or less a compliance topic rather than a cybersecurity or a safety topic, cyber safety topic. But the moment we connect the vehicle, for increasing functionality, to be more agile in delivering features or adding functionalities, making changes to the vehicle, we want more dynamic approaches. So we connect currently with the backends, maybe connect with a Bluetooth to the driver device, or connect with Wi-Fi to a hotspot,
Right.
And along with the good that we need, also comes the bad.
Yeah.
So That's the challenge we face, so of course there are ways where a not disconnected vehicle or a not connected vehicle can be hacked, but
Yeah.
the attack surfaces, the incoming landscape from which attacks can come, the sources are not that wide. The more we connect to the internet, to the backends, it grows bigger and bigger. And if you look at the new dimensions of development of the vehicle, currently autonomous vehicles are coming in, of course, and decision makings in terms of how it should be driven. The real-time mechanics at millisecond level happens inside the vehicle, but
Right.
the minute level or the second level decision making, which route to take, that comes from the backend.
Right.
And there are, if you look at the connection in terms of V2X, that's coming in. Maybe
Yeah.
with Wi-Fi, you connect to somewhat like a logistics environment, to their local Wi-Fi. We are trying to connect to multiple points. If you look at the zero trust network concepts, we are trying to connect to multiple endpoints, not a single backend. If you look at vehicles themselves, sometimes they have multiple ECUs, telematics units, TCUs, from different vendors coming in, maybe at times with
Right.
different endpoints, multi-OEM scenarios coming in. And even inside an ECU, if you look at it, there are multiple applications that are coming in, multiple containers, even at
Right.
times multiple OSs with Android coming in directly ported into it. So the moment we have this diverse, changes, dynamic
Yeah.
changes on the fly, the way we are delivering software,
Right.
in phases, multiple phases. So the time to ensure that we are doing the right thing, the capability to look at all possible connections, the knowledge to look into all this complex environment, all these things are a challenge,
Yes.
and to support this, to help this, of course we need to look into the corresponding solutions. I don't believe we are there yet, and hence we are under threat. That's for sure. That's my take at this point of time.
Sure, I think a great perspective, and definitely the way the new developments are happening, it is definitely making the things more complex. What we used to see in our IT environment, that it's not just a small TCU, but we are going to have these hypervisors having a multiple containers, and then definitely having those. The privacy concerns that is enabling those containers, and then that would be adding all those complexities. And then as you said, vehicle is the like some it has to be a mix of protection. Something decision has to be there at the vehicle side, some we can do at the cloud side, and that would be a challenge how we can do that at a real time, right? So a great perspective. Thanks, Mr. Nalai. And I'll look to Mr. Bob. And Mr. Bob, I think you can provide a great perspective while looking at overall the digital platform point of view, plus farming sector, how it is there, or the commercial side. And another great point, yesterday when I was talking, then Mr. Bob shared a great point that the vehicles, those are already on the road. We need to look at the security about those, and that is a big concern. So Mr. Bob, please share your thoughts on this, and some challenges. What do you think you see?
Yeah, thank you, Vishal. That was a great context that was set, where you actually cracked open an infotainment, and I think I could recognize that infotainment system as well. So, and it was well said by Mr. Niloy as well as to what are the challenges, right? So at Mahindra, I handle a large landscape of vehicles, right? Right from your farm segment to your commercial vehicles, and the various class of vehicles as well. And and of course, work with the passenger team itself. So you have vehicles which are not still electronic yet, which are mechanical in nature and which are just entering into the electronic phase. Then you have, partial electronics, and then you have vehicle segments which are, there in the advanced, getting into the advanced vehicle electronics, like what Nilay just suggested, where you have different containers where you run hypervisors and things like that, especially those kind of applications present for your cluster and infotainment and things like that. Right. So fundamental challenge here is, if you see the growth or how it has been, is that we have been focusing on increasing functionality, right? Improving the experience with the customer on the mobility sector, right? Wherever, and then of course increasing electronics to create convenience, right? So enhancing control functions and things like that. And then, of course, when you have safety critical systems, you include functional safety and all those aspects. And you see that the vehicle network architecture has also evolved over time, right? So it was a simple hardwired system to a basic single channel CAN, and then it goes to multi-channel CAN, and then now you're going to Ethernet for your camera-based task to support your autonomous kind of systems, and then you're talking about sensor fusion. So initially you did not have the concept of gateway, then you had the concept of gateway, then you were talking about electronics architecture. When doing all this, fundamentally, most of us kind of fail to assess what is the basic threat, or we don't do the threat assessment when we're designing the system. Or systems that are there on the road, we really did not do the risk or threat assessment, right? Which is there. And what we are striving to do is we are trying to bring them into the connected sphere as well. So which ones are already in the road through retrofitments, and some models which are going to continue for another 5-6 years, and then the new models where we do that. So what we are enabling to the hackers is we are actually opening a lot of entry points to create that convenience and comfort and things like that, which is a fundamental thing, right? So as far as cybersecurity is concerned, you need to start at the basic, at the initial stage, at the vehicle, design stage itself, when you conceptualize the vehicle itself. That's my take, And you have multiple stakeholders, like what Nilay said. You have multiple suppliers supplying different ECUs. You have multiple people working on the project. So each one should talk to each other, right? So you have a team which is working on IVN. You have a team which is working on clusters. You're working team on infotainment. So how are all these people aligned internally? And there should be a common team which actually does the risk assessment or threat assessment, and tell them that this should be the approach and this is what you need to take care. Because that level of standardization is happening. Because with the evolution of network architecture, especially with electronic architecture, you are building that standardization.
Yep.
Along with that standardization, you should actually bring the risk assessor at that stage itself and say that this is what you need to follow, so that in the future, at least for vehicles that is being rolled out, you ensure that some level of security is built in, right? So that is what is there in the future. What about the current state? So current state now, when you try to add the connectivity to the vehicle, you simply plug it into the OBD port with a simple TCU device. And if you look at any of the commercial vehicles in India, sorry to make this remark, but you can actually crack open their entire diagnostics code, their entire ECU codes from the OBD2 port, which is not the intention of the OBD2 port. OBD2 port is only intended for service. But the entire vehicle design you can pull out from that OBD2 port. I mean, absolutely, we have done that, and we have studied that. So it is not only a big risk for the OEM. The other OEMs also get a chance as to what is the approach to the design.
Yes.
Right. So when you're trying to make that connected, how do you do that? So is there something where you can build that security there? Is there a possibility there? How many of us have really really evaluated that piece, right? So that is still not done by most of us, right? So which we need to take into consideration. The other consideration that we need to take, okay, you're doing connectivity, you're establishing it from here to the cloud through, and you're ensuring some kind of handshake and thing through different security protocols. The IoT cloud itself, the fundamental thing is that it has to be interoperable, and you have to talk to different systems, right? So how are we actually, meeting those guidelines, right? So good thing now that organizations have realized, IT organizations have an infosec team which actually does that. And before we roll out any application from the OEM, it has to go through the infosec team and he has to certify it. And of course, there are various standards and regulations that many of the organizations are following in respect to that. And of course, when you're working with the cloud, you have all kinds of security and other things in place. But at the interoperability thing, you're still opening and you're creating an access point. The more access point you're creating, you're kind of creating that risk. So how do you minimize your design or how do you optimize your design with minimal access points and still deliver the experience? That is the challenge that all OEMs currently, or all of us are currently facing. And how do we bring that piece, which the existing vehicles, which is going to be there in the field for another 5 years or 10 years in some cases?
Absolutely agree that when we see the where we were and then how the transformation is happening, the challenges, as you said, the typical example of OBD port that once the device is connected, I'm sure that security were not being considered, and through that you have entire vehicle is just at your command. So and then with cloud connectivity, that different standards, some of the things have already started, but yes, things needs to be done, and it's a journey. I think then we have to look at it together. So I'll just move to Dr. Basu, and with her the extensive work on the cloud platform, or that overall that the communication with the vehicle to the cloud. If you can just share quickly that the challenges or what work is already started, that some things is already being taken care by the organization. Though I say that it's a journey. Please share your thoughts, Dr. Basu.
So when it is coming to a connected vehicle, one thing is very important: connected or automated, right? Or partly automated. So if we look at, there is something like 150 electronic controller units to 130 150 electronic controller units to 300 electronic units could be in place, or 100 million to 300 million lines of code inside any connected vehicle or partly connected or automated vehicle. Right. So that is one of the area, because we need to look at the entire landscape of the vehicle when it is coming to your connecting with the cloud platform. So what is the landscape of a connected vehicle? If we look at from a holistic perspective, there are two landscapes. One is connected vehicle landscape, through which this vehicle is passing through its journey or through its life cycle. The second one is the connected vehicle support ecosystem. So if we are not enabling the connectivity with the connected landscape, like, it could be your phone, it could be your bank, your insurance, your medical emergency system, or car repair shop could be your connected equipments at home, but you still connected with the connected support landscape, through which you may connect with your dealers, you may connect with your insurance aggregator, or vehicle emergency support ecosystem, accident detection, or virtual machines which are connected with this within this system. Or could be possible you we may assume that we are not connected because we have not enabled the connectivity of the car through the Wi-Fi. But most of the cases, with the ignorance of the people, they connect the Android phone with the vehicle, which is enabled with the Wi-Fi connectivity. And vehicle actually take this device as a trusted device, and majority of the time this get connected with the infotainment system.
Yep.
And we found there is no authentication between the infotainer and the connected mobile phone. And when we leave the vehicle, this connectivities are on. So if we look from that perspective, and again, there are around 62 car components which are highly vulnerable, through which we can get inside a car. But if we try to nail it down, there would be the 4 component, which is a kind of major component like your electronic control unit, then your CAN bus, onboard diagnostic, and infotainment system. So these are the major 4 systems get connected with the cloud platform. And if we need to look at the vehicle hackable surface, that remote attack surface with the cloud. But when it is coming to the remote attack surface, we should not restrict ourselves with the remote attack surface. Again, the vehicle network architecture play a huge role, because you may have some connected device of which is trusted by this vehicle. Cyber physical features also very important, and this in turn impacting materialized through some vulnerabilities which are coming through the insecure firmware update, hard-coded or non-existence of your blue code pin, or could be hard-coded credential, weak web protocol or web 2 protocol, internet enabled administration interfaces. So now if we look at the entire supply chain of the cloud, vehicle is having huge data inside, as well as there are some data which are protected by nature. Now you are connecting this vehicle with the cloud, not only the cloud through which you get the support system. There are multiple clouds connected with the vehicle. It's a complete supply chain. So there are 2 areas highly require a high attention. One is your in-vehicle architecture. Secondly, the cloud security itself. So how do you configure that cloud which is connecting with your vehicle? What is the authentication system in between? How do you, if you are actually focusing on the zero trust model, how do you ensure that every cloud you are connecting is having a kind of zero trust enabled authentication system? If not, what would be the alternative? And since we have mentioned that there are a huge number of IoT devices inside the vehicle, how we regulate those? Because this IoT is also interconnected with the OEMs, because this IoT is majorly not manufactured by the vehicle manufacturer. They are actually coming through the supply chain ecosystem. So this IoTs may be possible. They are also connecting with their OEMs cloud for different purpose to send the data back and forth. So how do you govern this entire connected car cybersecurity through a proper identification of the vulnerable areas? When I'm talking about the vulnerable areas, not the vulnerability. It is like, what are the components you are connecting? What are the clouds you are connecting? What are the probable connectivity? So considering that, if we look at that, there is an ecosystem built on that. It's a very inclusive ecosystem. So you need to have also a very good third-party risk governance process. And
Sure. Yeah.
it is not only, compliance for the perspective of demonstrating the compliance. It is more on the security and safety. The reason is, if we look at financial industry, they are highly regulated, and also they are very careful about the security because they are losing the money. But what happened with the vehicle? The major difference between a financial system and the vehicle is, if something happen, life at direct risk. In financial system, you are going to lose the money. You can, claim it back, but you cannot claim a life back. So it is more
I think that's
sensitive.
a right. That's a great point, because if we compare other systems, then here life it has risk, and then
Correct.
if we talk about then the single command that can impact that. So great point, because if we need to look at the overall system, and as also Mr. Bob says, that we need to understand that from the risk system point of view, what are the areas that those are, like, where those risks are, and then we can identify how to fill that. So with this,
Absolutely.
Right. With this, I'll just move to Saurabh. I think he is probably at a very crucial stage where, while providing those components to the manufacturers, all these kind of are coming as a requirement coming to him. And overall, if we see that the supply chain tier one plays a very important role, and they are one who provides the functionality, and then is a very critical part of the supply chain. So now when cybersecurity is in a mainstream, it is into procurement, and the topic is no longer R&D, but it is like part of bill of material. Saurabh, what do what are your thoughts, and then what do you see that is coming, and the challenges and the kind of expectations is coming from the tier suppliers point of view?
Thanks, Vishal. And I believe the way Mr. Bob, Mr. Niloy, and Dr. Lopa has already said, this is not only a part of R&D or research or development, it's more of a deployment. And as wisely defined and precise by all the three people, that it is not only the risk assessment or risk detection or corrective actions. Actually, it includes 4 different phases as far as the uh, components supply chain comes into the picture. Now, as we see, the more of the vehicles are moving from simple, ordinary electronic gadgets to a IoT connectivity platform to a V2X ecosystem. So, as a supplier, we always believe to define the solution as a complete ecosystem and let the respective stakeholders realign their responsibilities, find out the solution, and then deploy it. So, if I summarize the solution development as an ecosystem, I feel 4 parameters basically. One is design and processing it. The second part is the identification and authentications, which is widely said by Bob and Mr. Niloy as well. The third one is the connectivity, is the most important chapter, which has been very well addressed by Dr. Ropa. And the last point, which we miss actually, is end of the life. See, we all as an engineer focus on how we design, how we do a processing of the input signals, how we control the processing within the solution or within the component or into the cloud management. How does it communicate to the different ecosystem components? And then later on, we are also filling by adding a lot of function and features to V2X management, where we are not talking only about the vehicle or the life of the vehicle. We are also connecting a lot of dots across ecosystem. Could be a mobile phone, could be a bank details, could be a uh, uh, health insurance parameters. So actually the cyber threats is not restricting yourself into the vehicle, it's exposing to entire ecosystem. And
Exactly.
there we as a component manufacturer need to understand how we will control it. Fine, we have all the right relevant people who can control the vehicle, but once it has been passed on to different ecosystem, which cyber law, which protection, which tool, which guidance allow us to control the information and only pass on the authentic information to identified peoples? This is what my takeaway from this question. So threat, of course, it's a big point. We all as a respective players need to work on the entire ecosystem. And we also need to ensure that we deploy the right subject matter experts into it, who can take care from input to processing to output and end of the life, so that the technology which were past 1.5 year back was just on a discussion stage. Now a lot of OEMs are talking into their vehicle safety standards. Should also think that these right subject matter experts help us to ensure that the liability should not come to us after spanning completion of vehicle life. So this is my understanding about the cyber threats. As far as the independent security solution providers are concerned, I think a lot of companies, startups, experience holders are coming to the picture and claiming that they have the right solution. Of course, we have to believe them because they have the expertise. But we also need to ensure, as wisely said by Mr. Niloy, we have to take their inputs from the design stage itself. Because when we are developing a solutions, we have to think all the life cycle of the product and take their inputs and help to ensure each life delivers the utmost safety to the entire ecosystem. So thanks, Vishal. This is all my takeaways and inputs.
Sure, thanks. Great input. And what I get is that, if the cybersecurity, it was a topic of board discussions whether we should have it or not in 1.5 year back. It is now getting into reality, and it is like now getting a kind of expectation and the requirement. And definitely, I think it's validation from the supplier point of view. It is there because you are the first, you need to provide that along with all the functionalities. And second thing, as you definitely mentioned, the end of line, it is very important because one aspect we don't understand from the vehicle point of view. We see that as a threat, but and the big area like identity theft, we generally don't relate to vehicle, but identity theft is very much important for the vehicle side as well, like impersonating the vehicle, and then especially using the crime, or when we are seeing those the subscriptions, getting this lease a subscription model. So it is very much there for the business loss as well. So there are great inputs, and it if I summarize, then it's a very complicated, a very complex thing, and the vehicle and the way it is moving, and the cyber threat, it is going to increase, and then where we need to include the experts from the right stage, on the very beginning stage, and then understanding what are the right channels and the areas, and then how we can plug it, those we can fill that goals. Okay, so that is like our the understanding about the cyber threat. Before I move to next very important question, I'll just, Rohit, can you post the second question? Okay, so that is like it's an important question. Is that how the buyers feel, because that is one, when you're providing the vehicle to the buyers, what do they feel? So that is like our second question. It's slightly related with that, but the question is that when we talk about the cybersecurity, it's a deep-rooted technology, and when we look at the supply chain, OEMs may say that this could be fulfilled by tier one, but like if any attack happens from cyber criminals, it would be to the OEMs, right? So they have a direct liability, and then they it's a bigger thing because that includes their brand image. And as different surveys says that if vehicle or brand has some kind of associated with the past history of vulnerable to cyber attacks, then viewers think twice. So I think considering that, whose responsibility it is, I feel it should be the CEO and CFO's responsibility, because they need to look at the overall, that entire whole chain, and then how it is impacting with the warranty management of the vehicle, or the their litigation point of view. So that's my second question, that when we talk about the cybersecurity within the automotive supply chain, who is responsible? Whose responsibility is this? So I just, just request Ram, if you can just quickly, share your thoughts that
Right.
About this, and who should be responsible.
Yeah, thanks, Vishal. I think, as you rightly pointing towards, right, most of the panelists were talking about the cybersecurity and the vulnerabilities, the way the attackers use different techniques and all. The responsibility, I guess, if I'm not wrong, you were the one who were saying that this should be part of the bill of materials, right? So that should be probably the area, and that responsibility becomes everyone in the organization, whether it could be the CEO, CFO. It need not be a top down or a bottom up approach. It is like a fundamental responsibility, especially coming from a startup like us, where we were born out of cloud and where there was like a boom of startups around us, and we are completely in the cloud right from the day one. And while we are the OEMs and we manufacture two-wheelers, we were born in an era of threats around us, and there were like resounding effects of what you get into. And I think one of the points which Mr. Bob had mentioned when he was talking about the entire cybersecurity was having this thinking at the start of your product development itself. If it is part of your product development, and if you have that knowledge of what it is when you're building it up, that gives you lots of good perspective in terms of building the entire ecosystem of connectivity. So the responsibility is with the manufacturers in that sense, because the OEMs are the ones who are bringing all these discrete parts together into one area. And it cannot really give it to some other tier, or give it to some other like suppliers, saying that, hey, suppliers, you have to come up with it, because the OEM is the one who's bundling all the supplier parts or supplier things into one area. And now you're giving by your brand or by your recognition to the customer. So the customer is always connected to the OEM, not with the suppliers. So there could be hundreds and thousands of suppliers when you go around the automotive manufacturers, right? Cannot really give that the responsibility away from the OEM. So what I feel is that it should come as more of the product thinking itself. It has to be inherent in your DNA to start with. And whether you're connected, not connected, the threat is equal and above. There are areas where people can still attack you in a different way. Probably uh, live with that. The regular usage of cell phones itself, the amount of threats what are coming in, right? You would every day see that Play Store or Apple Store are removing like hundreds of apps from their stores by potential threats. So that is in the wake of the kind of cyber attacks what we are getting into. Whether we are connected, semi-connected, not connected, or have some amount of control, no control on it, the responsibility should start right from the product development, and it should be across the org. And as you rightly pointed out, it should be one of the items in bill of materials if it is not already there. And that has to be a progressive thinking in terms of product development. It shouldn't be like an after effect where you say that, okay, I burned my fingers, now what should I do?
Sure, a very valid point, and thanks for sharing, because absolutely, because it has to start from the beginning, and then it should be responsibility should be shared, and then I think cybersecurity would be opening up a discussion how that the engagement model, communication model between the supply chain, how it would work. So I'll just move to Saurabh. Saurabh, if you just in a minute or so, if you can share that being a tier one supplier, that a lot of liability comes to you. How do you see this? That what is your take that about the this, who should own this?
It's a good point, actually. Who should own it? But in my personal opinion, it is not a matter of a belief that who owns or who disowns. It's actually more on it is how it is implemented, monitored, analyzed, and then make it more secured to avoid the liabilities. Of course, liabilities cannot be avoided. We have to really factor into our business value chain systems. But we as an entire ecosystem also need to redefine our responsibilities towards it. And then handshake with the right subject matter expert. Today, we say that liability belongs to warranty or maybe some cyber attack or maybe something else. But in my opinion, if we have a formula to redefine that, okay, if this type of a liability comes, who should be coming to the picture, analyze and make it more secured so that the current liability cannot exceed it or factored as a multiple over the future. So I think this is something like we all stakeholders need to sit together, understand the areas of liabilities, identify them, and then make a formula that how and who should pay it. As far as the last concern is there, CEO and CFOs is the first person. I believe they are these not only the sole responsible, as Mr. Ram said, it's like complete chain from top to bottom. And every person in the entire chain system has to do his job at appropriate responsibilities. So in that case, we will definitely limit the liabilities. And as wisely said by Dr. Lopa as a financial risk and financial management, and I think that time is not too far where the financial institutes and automotive companies are working together to make V2X as a more successful solution despite of only OEMs or only tier one players. So I think this is something we need to find a formula yet. We are yet to define on it. Thank you, Vishal.
Sure. Yeah. As we are seeing that how the connectivity is going to be in the vehicle, and the automotive, it's not just be connected to your the streaming or radio, but it is going to be connected with your home. You'll be doing a shopping from your vehicle or connected with your health provider. So the cyber attack would result into the the financial impact as well, right? And I get that it's a fair point because that's a shared responsibility. I'll just take 1 minute, like Mr. Nilay, if you want to share your thoughts on this. You are in mute. Nilay, you're on mute.
Yeah. So I'd say that I didn't want to take the name of a brand, but we all know it. So we all know that Jeep was hacked.
Yes.
How many of we know who the tier one provider was for the component that was the source of all the attacks? So in the end, the accountability for me goes to the OEM,
yes,
the vehicle manufacturer. Of course, things are changing, because now we can have issues or components or services added on services, whether it's for trailer management or for some camera solution or dynamic location based services. There can be additional issues. So if that comes as a component, of course those providers are directly responsible or accountable.
Yeah.
But in the end, if these issues cause challenges with the vehicle itself, back again the OEM and hence its CEO is mainly accountable for this topic. Others are responsible for sure. So the responsibility that we see is that the way we are developing, if you look at the concept of security, to me security is not CIA. To me security is something going wrong, that wasn't planned before. We defined some components with a purpose, and the purpose is violated and there is a wider impact. And hence we have a security risk. It's not by what security is the definition, but what it is not. We had a purpose and that's violated. Now if you look at the complex environment, and we see that where can things get violated? Things can get violated at every issue level. Things can get violated at every line of code that we write. Things can get violated at every interfaces that we connect, at every access that we provide, at whatever level, whether in the vehicle or in the network or in the cloud, wherever it is. So the responsibility drills down to every component, whether it's the OEM provider and hence its developers, even with the development or the key management, all those components. It's with the cloud service providers, with the the DevSecOps, a continuous way of living of solutions, of secure solutions, securing. So the responsibility is with the whole organization. Accountability is only with the CTO, CEO of the OEM. At the same time, I'd say that to get a control of such an complex environment and assuring that everyone plays their role properly, it's not an easy task to ensure
Yeah.
that, to assure that.
Right.
So we have to take two approaches. One is a solving by a process mechanism, put the right processes in place so that everything is handled in a proper way. But also we should at design level ensure that there are certain control points. And I'd say a control point could be a TCU, where we can delineate fault zones very clearly.
Yeah.
And if we have such a control, it's possible to secure some of these complex environments at certain control points. And I would say thanks to you, Vishal, for bringing me to this webinar. And thanks to your company as well. I'd like to say that standing next to the companies like IOActives or Argus from US or Israel, and providing solutions like the ITS, IPS, the firewalls, to build this efficient control points so that we can, even though things can go wrong here or there in different contexts, we have certain critical control points to protect our vehicles in a way. So
Sure.
that is my.
No, thanks a lot for those points, and thanks a lot for just saying some good words for us. But I agree that the example that you have taken for one company where we had this first attack, yes, litigation costs and the liabilities could be shared, but the brand image, as we have seen that after that attack, that the revenue goes down, the purchasing, the buying of those vehicles, that goes down. That is the kind of the impact onto the vehicle manufacturer. And now if we see that there are so much of competition, nobody would like that kind of movement where some events like this would impact us, because it is hard to gain the market. And so that is that's what I was saying, that the CEO, CFO, they need to think broadly. But yes, the responsibility is shared, but we need to look at from the other aspects as well. So thanks a lot for sharing these points. Rohit, can you share the result of the last post? Yes. So yes, like the question is that like whether, like, what the buyers feel. Do they see that cybersecurity is like would be a deciding factor? I would say that other than 9%, 6%, that the 61% says absolutely yes, and 33 is that definitely it would be an important factor. So it is like a very important factor, not only from the manufacturers or suppliers, but from the viewers or the buyers who would be actually buying. So that is a very important the result, and then showing that how critical this this particular subject is. Thanks, Rohit. And if you can just open up like the another post. Right, so that was related to my next question. I'll just request Mr. Bob to share. Like, now we know that security is important, and we know that it is responsibility lies with all the stakeholders, and it is important from the brand image and how the buyers would be liking. But like if it is a new things and then it is high expense, then somebody has to pay. Or that how, and if we see that overall this cost conscious country like India, and then in the automotive world where we do a lot of diligence that what features should be adding or not to control the cost, where do you think that who would be the buyer in the ecosystem? Because there's a new area that if you see from the manufacturer side, that the center who would be pushing for the purchasing and who would be willing to put that money. right? So that is like, how do you see that this new requirement, what is coming up, how it would change the chain within the management from the buyer point of view? If you can share your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely, Vishal. So I think most of the aspects have been touched by the other panelists, right from some of the best practices that can be adopted to, how it has to be, how the problem has to be approached. And as you rightly pointed out, the fundamental question is, yeah, if I'm going to include this as part of it, it's also a cost anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right. As an OEM, I have to, find somebody who's going to do that end-to-end risk assessment. I have to build it into the cost of my vehicle. So if you go back, let me take some analogies, right, from the past, right? So if you look at the sale of cars or vehicles, right? So they started off saying that, okay, I have these features in my music system and things like that. That became a salient point. Then you had people saying that, hey, I have so many airbags in the system. So that became a selling point, right?
Exactly.
So that kind of evolved over time. And, people said, hey, yeah, I need to be secure. I need to have that kind of entertainment. And they started paying for it.
Yeah.
So in the same way, I feel that, people might, get into that scheme of things. They're saying that, okay, the OEM is saying that I'm secure. They might put some kind of certification logo, which, regulations are already coming in, and, standards are being laid out. So like the various standards, the symbol also will be there in your front panel saying that, this is cybersecurity certified. Right. So if that is there, then, people will say, okay, fine. Because when moment you're talking about connected thing, you're starting to share personal data with your vehicle. And the vehicle is also your personal data. So it definitely, when he's downloading apps from the app store and things like that, people are looking at that level of security. Okay, whether I can really use this app and things like that. So when you're connecting to the car, and then when you're putting your personal information, right, from how you're planning your work, your journey, and other things, so all that start becoming exposed, right? And when that logos there saying cybersecurity certified, it gives confidence. Okay, fine, I will go with this brand because at least my data is secure, my personal data is secure.
Yeah.
So there is some leverage that you can, push the cost to the consumer, but some part you have to absorb it because the competition is intense. The moment you do that, your competitor will also say, yeah, I'm also secure, but I'm giving with plus X features at the same cost.
Right.
Right. So how do I manage that? See, for example, today OEM one comes up saying that I give 10 features today at X cost. The OEM two will say that, no, I have 20 features at the same X cost. Where will the buyer go? So the cost pressure is always there, right?
Yes, absolutely agree. And then I think, so one point is clear that the way safety features, whether it is your safety belt or airbags, is become your selling point. Soon, cybersecurity would also be, become your selling point. And as you also mentioned that what additional, and I believe that by providing the right set of protection, the touch point that you see within the system, the what you see from the at that component level, probably that could help providing much more insight, and that would result in different monetization point of view, whether it is a forensic, whether it is like some compliance, or there could be many other areas. I think that would open up. And if I say that recently the report from McKinsey that it says that the automotive, they need to look at from the different model that how we can come up with new things to retail side, and then finding ways so that they can increase the revenue. So absolutely right on your side. I just Rohit, can you share the result of the post? Okay, so we have a pretty good, I think, a mix of response. So yes, I think our buyers, they also see that it's a value. And if we are providing the value and then the trust, because security and the assurance that gives a trust, and if you're providing that, then they would be willing to pay. And yes, of course, they would like to see that what features we are providing. But that is if we say that the 86% of buyers, they are willing to pay additionally to have the secure, because it's an asset and it is related with their life. So it is important to the buyer. So absolutely spot on that side. And I think, I'm sure this numbers will definitely give a good feeling to the manufacturers or the suppliers to add more I think adequate security, and then show the value add, because cybersecurity will become the value add and then can result into the different revenue stream. So that was when we're talking about the our security related to the vehicle. I'm sure that we just have probably will take 10 minutes to cover up a couple of topics. So we'll just ask the very quick responses from our panelists. One aspect is that, like, if we see that overall supply management and the how this cybersecurity would be changing, that if like in traditional model in the automotive, if there was some faulty components, then it used to take like 8-9 months to get the feedback from the field, and then fix it, get the new component, and then do the recall and update the those components. That is I think will not work on the cybersecurity, because if it is a threat, it has to be taken with the immediate priority. It has to be very tight SLA. I think here we see that over their update would get into picture, because that it is providing the operational efficiency at the same time, to minimize the damage, how we can disable the functionality, or we're providing the patch over there. That is where OTA would come. So I'll just request Ram, if you can share that OTA is definitely is going to be there, looks like, for in all the vehicle, but it comes with a very serious threat. Like, if you're not taken seriously, then a single attack can be can open a channel to entire fleet, right? And we are at the criminals attacking the data center, stealing the certificates. Nothing new, it's happening from decades. So how do you see that OTA is important, but how do you see from the what is required for the successful adoption of OTA?
The OTA is a very interesting space, because especially in the automotive sector, OTAs are evolving. If I consider some other like sector like a mobile phones, or probably the cloud and all, the OTAs have been there, and like where you can actually implement very strategically, very securely. Automotive is probably in more of a nascent stage in that sense. But coming from an OTA standpoint, it's very important, as you rightly said. You shouldn't wait about 8-9 months for some issue happening on your vehicle. But leave about the cyber threat itself. Any issues on field, you would want the feedback to come to you immediately, and you have to do an immediate OTA on it. From an OEM standpoint, we do take that up very seriously, and we work with people like you, Secure Things and on, to understand and implement a few of these techniques or technologies which are already there in the automotive space, especially around OTA, that is HSMs, what we call them as hardware security models. And we work with these like players in the market. We collaborate in a sense where we also help them evolve the models of hardware security models, and ensure that whenever and wherever there is a threat, we keep on like updating the HSM softwares and also the firmwares in that sense. We have a very rigorous life cycle for that one, where we do lots of security testing and penetration testing on all of our HSM modules, working with the partner in this. And this is more of a collaborative approach. The OEM and also the supplier in the sense work in a very collaborative way, because the security and threats are like extremely rigorous cycle, and both of them work in a collaborative way to understand and mitigate the risk, and also identify which are like your top priority risks which have to be patched immediately. OTA also comes with it's like a boon and a bane, right? The boon is that you can control the vehicle. The bane is that you would also have a sense of when should I do an OTA. Is it something like I have, so security and risks are coming like on day-to-day basis, you would see hundreds of securities which are coming in, but following that standards or OWASP standards or probably security compliance standards, this is where the suppliers come into the picture, the suppliers R&D, suppliers knowledge about, okay, these are major security vulnerabilities where you have to do an update. And these are the object, and they objectively say that, hey, these are the points because of which you have to do an OTA. So that is where the OEMs and all these suppliers or all these software vendors in that sense would work hand in hand. And if they work hand in hand, they have those guidelines and we follow a very, very rigorous cycle of security testing. We would definitely have a much better approach. I'm not saying that we can stop all the cyber attacks. It's like highly unlikely because the hackers are coming with latest and greatest technologies by all means, but at least we can mitigate the risk. I would say that we can control what do you say, the loss or probably the effect for an OEM in that sense, working in collaboration, and that's exactly where we work upon also.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think OTA is the way. I think the challenge would be whether, the exposure, like for the ECU update, whether it would be just those critical issues, whether they would be exposing to update through OTA, not the entire vehicle. I think with time, as we see the processes are set, the trust is built, then probably, and those other critical issues could also be updated through OTA. I have just a couple of more points to cover, and very quickly in a minute. As we are seeing that the digitization happening and COVID-19, it says that it's opened up a new model where the vehicle selling is also doing through virtual shop, and also that the internet-based driven models like rideshare and all. Cloud platform has become very critical. So I think Dr. Lopa had already covered those points. If you have something more that all these different models and where we are seeing that the entire the life cycle is getting connected from vehicle to dealer to the shop floor. What do you think the challenges and what are some of the steps or the precautions is being taken here? Dr. Lopa, can you share?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yeah, please.
So online vehicle selling concept, right? That was available prior to COVID also, but it get more responses after COVID, because people actually want to. Vehicle is ultimately a product, but people like to have a look and feel.
Right.
Earlier. Now, when you look at this entire uh, supply chain, I think if we look at this, how practically it is working, you have a platform or a website where you can provide as much as required data related to the vehicle. People may get the virtual reality things over the platform. And once they identify that this is the vehicle I would like to go for, then the second step, they need to book the vehicle for a ride. And there is identified set of dealer who will be actually dropping those vehicle to the prospective customer, go for a ride. Once that is done, again, feedback will be going to the portal, and then the other, aspect of that entire purchase life cycle, which is very similar to a physical purchasing of a vehicle, that is going on. So, it's your web portal security is very important, because during that phase, because vehicle is a product which is related to huge cost. So you need to have a personally identifiable data of the client, that point, uh, at least this address, right? So you can trace back if anything happened with your product. So that is one of the area. So how do you protect that data? Secondly, you given the clear purpose, because this data is going out of your network some way. You may not be directly giving it to your dealer. You may give a login to the dealer, but you don't know dealer is noting down. That could be possible. And during this entire activity, dealer may collect more data. How to, cascade those liabilities. Also, you need to take care to keep your organization on the protection. Same way, during this ride, if something happened with the vehicle, we'll take the liability. That part also need to be taken care. Because what will happen, the people who are going to purchase the vehicle online, they are very used to its social media platform, online platform. So anything they can go and post on social media, and which is going to directly impact your brand. So you need to have a brand protection strategy from that perspective also. Now, cybersecurity aspect, if we look at there, your website need to be protected. You need to have a proper dealer cybersecurity governance of their portal. Through some of the practices could be SOC. SOC could be one of the report we can look at. And when we are looking for the certification, that gives us the minimal assurance that there is something to protect. It is not 100%, right? So even you can have your contract to superimpose those control to the dealer. So that's how we can take care of the entire life cycle. Also, some dealer may use the collect point and drop point with the third party. So how they are going to connect. So it's a complete ecosystem you need to work on.
Sure, I think very valid point, Dr. Basu. And one last question, like with Mr. Nilay, when we talk about any system, then what is required is that the assurance, right? And without, it is not just a feature, but whether it is providing the assurance. And when we talk about the assurance for the cyber security perspective, two aspects come into the picture, because like, if we say the security that nobody can completely claim that it would always be protected, we should also be ready and have a mechanism in place. What if somebody can, just some incident happen? So from, and you also mentioned from the process point of view, to readiness from those cases, this attack may happen, or somebody may attack this vehicle. How we can minimize the risk, how we can recover quickly. So that is like a response. The incident response comes and then it becomes critical. And the thing is that for the assurance, that one thing is very important is that the intelligence, how you can be proactive, where the threat intelligence is required, and that is like where you need like to make the vehicle proactive. So just like last in a minute, sorry, we have just short in time, but if you can share your thoughts in that.
Sure. I think Mr. Bob, he mentioned that we need a certification of the vehicle. What is the basis of the certification is the question. So the basis could be a regulatory compliance, and the basis could be a security safety assurance. So if you look at safety, we have the general risks, and then we have privacy related topics. So these are the components. How do we give a sense of assurance, whether as security guys to our management, or as OEMs or providers to our customers? What is the definition of this assurance? Most of us, what we do is security comes in patches. It's an afterthought, right? It still is. The features is much more critical for most of us than the safety. But I think in this panel, we have already found out that cybersecurity is equal to safety at this point in certain ways. Safety of the vehicle. If you have airbags, if you have anti-lock brakes, seat belts, then why shouldn't we protect from the components that can invalidate all those years of experience in a matter of minutes?
Exactly.
So assurance becomes very critical. And the moment we talk about assurance, because we cannot be 100%, like Miss Lopamudra said, we cannot be 100%. So what can we assure? What is the definition? What is the scope of this assurance becomes very, very critical. And then we have to structure out what pen test we do, what components we cover very clearly. We have to have a structured, maybe let me go back one step. The moment we try to go give a type of assurance is the moment where we have to have a model against which we give an assurance, a benchmark against which we give an assurance. So what is that model?
Okay.
We have to define the model. That model becomes very critical, and that is the same model which we should strive to achieve, in terms of security. That is the same model which we should pen test against. That is the same model which we should give assurance against. And the definition of this model becomes very, very crucial, whether it's inside the vehicle, whether it's on the connectivity, whether it's on the backend solutions, connecting to third parties. Defining this model, defining this heat map, maybe in a way, an approach. And then we can say these are the scopes that we are giving assurance against because we have validated this. And when we give this validation or assurance, there are generally two components. One is the basic security risks, that we don't make basic mistakes. We don't let the script kiddies get into our systems. That
Yeah.
is the minimum assurance we have to give. The next level is the competitive advantage topic. That can security be a competitive advantage? And there we can give assurances against more advanced attacks, threats, the
Yeah.
unknown related topics, how we can
Right.
handle the 0 days. And of course, there is always going to be unknowns. And in those cases, we have to be ready to react. And the reaction at this point is mainly technical. But my belief is if you want to give a long-term assurance at the health of the or the life of the customers, then we have to, in the long run, in terms of incident management, we have to connect with the um, health care companies around that particular area. We have to connect with the um, police or the authorities against that area. We have to connect with the traffic managers, the traffic um, uh, organizations. I don't get the name, but of those. And then we can say, yes, we have covered or assured end to end in certain ways. So that would be my take on this.
Sure, definitely. I think very fair point because, like for assurance, all these entities working together and then providing both from the protection as well as from the competitive edge. It is must. So with this, now we have
I I think Vishal might have gotten disconnected. We'll wait for him to join. Apologies for that. In the meantime, if the panelists don't mind, in the interest of continuity, we can just address a question from the Q&A, if that's fine by you guys, because anyway we are moving towards the end.
Sure.
Sure. So there was a question on electric vehicles. I'll just in terms of cybersecurity with respect to electric vehicles. I mean that's all the question was. Would anybody like to touch upon that? Any one of you? Ram, would you like to?
Yeah, I just answered that one of those questions in the Q&A. I was just answering that one. That
Okay.
cybersecurity is part and parcel of manufacturing for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are completely connected, and there is like the right from their inception all the way to the customer. It's a connected device by any which means. It's like your smartphone in your hand. So cybersecurity is part and parcel of the manufacturing for electric vehicles, and especially in electric vehicles, it is extremely important to have cybersecurity and ensure. See, one of the areas which we touched upon during this panel discussion was reducing the contact points for security, right? I mean the security vulnerabilities or the entry points into it. it is extremely important to think about different use cases and scenarios. And just not about cybersecurity, it's all about how do you make lesser contact points, and also ensuring that you give a absolutely safe and a secure vehicle, or any device in that sense. So that way, cybersecurity for electric vehicles is like the point. It is like the DNA of electric vehicles in that sense.
Sure, sure. Vishal, you got disconnected, so we just moved on to a question. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
In the interest.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to thank the panelists, and we can take questions. I'm just wanted to ask, like, if it is okay for panelists to just extend by 10-15 minutes. Is that okay? I just also wanted to share that, like, when we started this discussion, and then we showed that what are the threats available. But I just wanted to also close in a strong positive note by showing some of the protections what we have, some of the advanced protections we have added. So we provide the 6 layers of protection into the vehicle, 4 layers of protection within the vehicle, right from the protection from the hardware layer, different whether it is hardware chip or the wiring harness, or the 3 layers of protection for the your in-vehicle network, the host security of the network. And then on cloud side, we provide secure digital twin platform that can ensure the data integrity, as well as provide cloud-based intrusion detection system. Then the threat intelligence that can provide the proactiveness. I think we're short of time, so we won't be able to show. But if we have few minutes, then definitely used to show a couple of use cases on that. So Rohit, if you want, like, do we have we can take one more minute, one more questions, and
Sure.
then I.
Sure. I would invite Amit. If in terms of he's been following the Q&A very actively. Amit, would you be able to help us, in terms of picking out which question should we address, because you've been quite active on the session. Amit is
Certainly, I will try. I think one question that I remember was being asked was about someone was in the endeavor of implementing an IVN, and he wanted to understand what are the prerequisites before he sets out on implementing an IVN. That was one question. I'll also add another question so that I don't take time in sort of coming back for my questions. There's one question which is being asked by Preeti, and her questions are more about connecting autonomy and the need of cybersecurity and threat modeling. The question really is about if the autonomy levels change, would the threat model change? Should it change? Should it not change? And several topics entailed there. But if you could start with the IVN, then get to the autonomy and threat modeling and cybersecurity concern, I think these are two important ones that I noticed, and we can take more as if there is time.
okay. So
maybe I could request Dr. Bob to sort of share his perspective on the IVN aspect. Maybe Saurabh could add, and we could then hear about autonomy-related questions from either Dr. Lopa and Dr. Bob. Again, Vishal could add, in between. Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just throw more light on the IVN side, and I think Vishal will be the right person to give it, because he's actually implementing it. So IVN, whenever you're designing it, you kind of the architecture is evolving, right from your network level as to how many what level at the network level. See, the potential entry points needs to be assessed. How are you actually tapping into the IVN in terms of your addresses, and what kind of issues you're having at your if it's a multi-channel CAN or a CAN and Ethernet combined, what kind of issues you're actually putting there. Then at the ECU level, you need to define your security layers. And then you need to understand what kind of an architecture you're going through. Are you going to follow a simple gateway architecture which decides what to send, what not to send, what to allow, what not to allow, how it needs to be encrypted and things like that? Or you're going towards the next stage where you're going to have domain controls, controllers, a central controller kind of a system, right? So you need to find out what kind of a topology you're going to design, what are your entry points there, and in your topology, how many ECs you're going to support based on your network traffic. And then you do it at the ECU level, at the network level, and you do things further. So to do these kind of assessments, there are multiple suppliers available in the industry where they can, identify which is the best suited topology, and then even advise you as to what is the layers of security that you need to have at the ECU. Because if you take the ECU right from your chip level, it can be hacked, right? So and there are points that you need to, even from your debug terminals, you have to keep it secure. So all that assessment has to be done. So it's a big process.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like the question was like the security at the for IVN layer, or can you please just repeat the question?
The question really, Vishal, was about this gentleman was about to start his IVN development, maybe for a customer project, and he was asking if there are prerequisites that he must do consideration as he sets it foot on the design. But I guess Dr. Bob covered quite fairly well on that aspect.
Sure.
Maybe if you could take the next question, which is about autonomy, and also take inputs from Dr. Lopa. While you answer that, let me also add another question, which was sort of extension of the first question on EV. This gentleman would want to understand a lot more, so maybe Ram also can join in later as you finish our answers on the autonomy levels and related to cyber threat model and stuff like that. And I'll keep looking at the question section if Preeti has any follow-up questions that you could take up.
Yeah. Vishal, Mr. Ram just wants to drop out. It's he has to go attend another meeting after this. So I just wanted to, he just wanted to say thanks to the group.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much,
Actually,
Rohit, and thanks, Vishal. Thanks a lot for this event, and thanks everyone in the panel. I really appreciate it. It was really nice talking to all of you. Thank you
and
so
Ram,
much.
I think it's a thanks for joining and sharing those insights, and it's really to that adds a value. I'm sure that audience would get a lot of insight from
Absolutely.
this.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So, Rohit, I would just like to share. I'll be taking a question. I'd just like to share a couple of the protections. Would like to show that what when we see that the threat and how are we protecting those areas, and what would be the right way to protection. Like when we see the real time scenario, then the threat is there in the connected ecosystem, how the system would identify that, like from the assurance point of view, how it would identify there is a threat, and then like incident response or the SOC, they can pick it up, they can analyze, and then provide a solution, and then then provide to the vehicle to enable the protection, as well as like when we are seeing a lot of digitization is happening, then how that secure digital twin can add value. I just wanted to share that.
So maybe in terms of the questions, we can take that offhand because we already have them. So we can take them offhand. I'll share them with you, and you can directly connect with those people. In terms of the other thing, you can maybe proceed with that in the interest of time.
Yeah. So just quickly like to share. Let me just share the screen. So as I said, like just wanted to end with a positive note, and the protection to the attacks that we had shown. So we showed two things. One is that for the protection for the device, and what is the right protection is that how we can protect the zero-day attack when attack happened, how the system could detect and then analyze, and how it could be deployed within the device, and then it is enabled. So that is where just wanted to share that our technology, it uses machine learning techniques, behavior learning, and it understands the vehicle behavior, and then based on that, it basically identifies the right the patterns and rules so that it can start protecting. That is where, like, when it understands the system behavior, it identifies those zero-day attacks as well. So here, like, what we are showing is that the device where the hacker just enabled the Wi-Fi, and then if attack happened, how we can deploy our protection through over there, and then how it can immediately activate it and then start protecting. So the thing is that this the right protection strategy that does not require the integration of your the OEM's supplier source code, because I think that would be the biggest concern, that when sharing the source code or the IP with the third party vendor, that is the biggest point, and that is what we are addressing. And that is also highlighting that when we understand the behavior using the machine learning way, or the different processes are working, how different processes are communicating with each other, how the network traffic is behaving, then we can identify those true attacks that can happen to the vehicle. So here we see that how we can enable the attack through over there update. It uses the delta technique, as well as use very so blockchain kind of models make it very highly secure, because when you're talking about the OTA, then you have to ensure that like some of the sophisticated attack, like attacking the data center, stealing the certificate, and sending the malicious binary to the vehicle, because your certificate is valid, how you can secure based on that. So our OTA techniques protect that as well. So that is where we deployed, and then if we do the same attack, our this protection algorithm can protect that. So this is protected, and so this will not allow even the cyber criminal to connect to the system, let alone that inserting any kind of malware. Just quickly share the next one is that that when we are saying that the next layer for the when we talk about the next layer, that where it is very important for the protection for the data and the data integrity, and it is we have the I just close this to avoid any kind of the branding, but I just wanted to share that we have the secure digital twin solution, where it creates a simulation of the like your vehicle states within the cloud, and it looks at each and every the signals that it goes to the cloud, and it ensures that like the data, that each signal that is coming, it is not breaking those state patterns, or those each signal is correct, it is not malicious. So that is our secure digital twin solution provides. It helps doing the cloud-based intrusion detection, as well as it also helps like ensuring the data that it is being used by the fleet management the services, or any cloud-based services, when it is relying on the data, the secure distribution, it ensures the security or the integrity of the data. So that is just, I think, with the interest of time, just wanted to share that. And I just wanted to talk about, it's not just the attacks, but yes, the strong solutions are there that can protect, and is already happening. So that is what I just wanted to share. And that is where I would like to end it. And I just want to thanks all the panelists with their time. I'm sure that sharing their insights, sharing their real kind of challenges, what is already happening. I'm sure all the audience would get benefited. Even we'll get some more insight from that. So I would like to thank on that. So Rohit, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's live session on automotive cybersecurity. Firstly, I would like to thank our speakers for taking out their time from the busy schedule for this, and really apologize for extending it by 15 minutes. I really apologize. Secondly, I would like to thank our wonderful audience for their inquisitiveness and their attention. We received a lot of questions. We tried to answer most of them. If you are remaining unanswered, we will connect offline and definitely deliver an answer to you on those as well. And lastly, I wanted to take this time to thank our partner Secure Things for supporting this session. Really appreciate it. So thank you all for joining us once again, and we will see you for our next session on 24th November on last mile delivery. So till then, bye to everybody.
Rohit, and thanks for this organizing. It's a wonderful event, and thanks